Hey everybody, welcome back to the RGR Football channel here on YouTube. My name's Daniel Harms. Today we are going to talk about the division in and of itself, the AFC West, and the quarterbacks that are in that division. Really what Patrick Mahomes has started in this division, and it's spreading out into the NFL, is that this is a gunslingers league. So you have to be able to keep up in the quarterback department to be able to compete with guys like Patrick Mahomes. And that's just how it is. And it starts here in the AFC West, specifically for the Chiefs. Now, over the course of the last year or so, things have been different with COVID and everything. But I think this last season, especially when we're talking about what the Chiefs, the Raiders, and the Chargers are doing, it comes down to putting up points. Now, a lot of people will scoff at that when I'm talking about the Raiders, but in fact, Derek Carr had probably one of his best seasons last year. And I know that 4,100 yards is not what we all talk about with Patrick Mahomes. 5,000 seems to be almost a foregone conclusion or around that point. But it's not just the total yards. He even had less attempts last year than 2 years ago, which actually was the most he's ever had at 553, or excuse me, that's inaccurate. So the one of his least amount of attempts was in 2020 at 517 attempts. His completion percentage was among the best in his career. Is like I said, he had the most yards he's ever had, the second most touchdowns or third most touchdowns at 27 total touchdowns with 9 interceptions. So it's a good touchdown interception ratio. And I know that a lot of people do scoff at their offense because it's not the best thing ever. But I think last year we saw the tendencies that are needed to compete in the division. They did only finish 8-8, mostly because their defense is garbage. It's real bad. But I think that their offense showed signs of life and trying to move forward, even with Derek Carr, who a lot of you don't like, but he is not super limited as a passer down the field. He put up points against the Chiefs defense multiple times. And I think that goes to show you a little bit that while, yes, their goal last year was probably to show that they can compete with the Chiefs, and that's why we see it in an 8-8 record. But I do believe that Derek Carr enough is enough of a quarterback to compete if their defense is good enough. Now, will their offensive line setback maybe bring that down to earth a little bit? Probably. I think so. We can probably expect a little bit of regression in the run game and maybe a little bit in pass protection. Because if you remember those games against the Raiders, Derek Carr was virtually untouched by the Chiefs defensive line and blitzing. They were just very, very good at shutting that down. But I do believe that Derek Carr is more than capable enough to throw the ball down the field accurately and get the ball where it needs to be. And like I said, I do believe that you got to see that last year firsthand. It was his most adjusted air yards per attempt. So you have yards gained per pass attempt right there at 7.9, which is his best in his career. His yards gained per pass completion are on 11.8, highest in his career. QB rating 92, or excuse me, 101, highest in his career. His QBR 71, highest in his career. So we're seeing a trend in that direction that, yes, even though Derek Carr is probably, I would say he's an above average quarterback in the NFL in terms of what he can do as an all around skill set. I know you may scoff at that, but I do believe he is. He's got a very nice deep ball. Yeah, he likes to check the ball down a little bit, and I would argue that sometimes his reading of defenses is what can keep him back from being more than that. But I think that if they were able to get a defense around him last year, that they would have been more than competitive in just the games that we saw against the Chiefs, where they did win that game, the first game, and ended up losing because Patrick Mahomes is just that good with the ball in his hands in the second half and down one score. So it's really something to behold in terms of what you have to do to keep up. They scored 30 plus in both of those games. They lost one, they won one. And I think that that's the way that teams feel they have to beat the Chiefs. Now, what the Buccaneers did in the Super Bowl is really just a one-off, in my opinion. The Chargers in the second game of the season, are a bit of a different animal in terms of what they can do defensively or what they did defensively. They have a much better schematic defensive, personnel as well, like the whole scheme and the way that they run their defense, the last couple of years has been something that Patrick has really had to adjust to, and I think we're going to see that again this year. But speaking of the Chargers, the guy that really is the threat at quarterback in this division is Justin Herbert, and yeah, he had a 6-9 record, which probably should have been worse than it was. But it's not because he wasn't great. Yeah, he threw 10 interceptions that year, excuse me, but that's less than Patrick Mahomes threw in his first year. They did everything they could to keep him off the field for some disingenuous reason. Tyrod Taylor was not the answer. And I'm not sure what they were seeing in practice to say that he shouldn't be on the field, because Justin Herbert was just incredible last year. 98 QB rating, excuse me. His QBR was almost 70. He took 32 sacks last year, which is a little bit of a problem. That offensive line was a big issue, but again, they upgraded that offensive line in the offseason and the draft. That's the big thing to take away from that, because I believe at full strength the Chargers are going to be the competition in this division, and a lot of it has to do with Justin Herbert. Philip Rivers could only do so much in that with that team. He didn't really have much more than we saw. He was a competitor. The dude just never missed games. He was able to compete with the best of them, but he didn't have the physical tools like Justin Herbert has. He can run, he can stand in the pocket, deliver the ball when he needs to, and his accuracy downfield into tight windows was incredible last year. I expect that to take a little bit of a step back, just because most quarterbacks can't consistently deliver the ball into tight windows down the field every single season. So you just kind of see something go backwards with that. So he threw 4,300 yards last year, 31 touchdowns to the 10 interceptions, like I mentioned. His yards per attempt was 7.3, so a little bit less than we're talking about with Patrick Mahomes. But again, he developed a chemistry with Austin Eckler last year, and the two guys really that they did a lot of work with is Austin Eckler and Keenan Allen, who is not a deep threat receiver. He's definitely more of a tactician with his route running and the intermediate parts of the field. So that's why you see those yards per attempt kind of be down a little bit, but he showed multiple times he's able to get the ball down the field to some of his undrafted speedsters that they brought in. So Justin Herbert is going to be a problem in this division for a long time, and I think that's what the Chargers needed to do 2 years ago when they drafted him. It was something that they saw they had to do. They had to get rid of Philip Rivers. It was time for him to go on. And they needed a quarterback to rival with Patrick Mahomes. They brought one in, and he definitely could do that. I didn't see anything to say that he's going to struggle this year. And unless we see a different, we start to see defenses adapt to him, which I believe we will, it's going to be up to him to adapt to that. But he has the physical tools and everything to be able to compete at that high level. And I do believe at full strength that the Chargers are going to be in this division down to the end. It's going to be a fun battle between those two. And right now, that's really how it stands, because Derek Carr is a bit older, and the Raiders don't seem to be able to get a consistent defense, offensive line at the same time around him. So I think that's going to be an issue. Otherwise, I would say that he could also compete, maybe not to the extent that Herbert can. But again, this is all chasing Patrick Mahomes, who we all know is a phenomenal quarterback, and we're going to get to last because we always save the best for last. Now, we're going to head into Denver, which is an absolute word that I can't say on this stream. It's not very good. It's a garbage pile, a heap, whatever you want to call it. Drew Lock is he's a terrible quarterback. When you lead the NFL in interceptions thrown, and I don't know if he led them, actually. That may be inaccurate, but he threw 15 interceptions in 13 games last year. That's not good. That's really, really bad. And, yards per attempt, 6.6. That's not very good either. His completion percentage dipped to 57.3 last year. And he hasn't taken that step. Now, a lot of people, specifically on the Denver side, are going to point to what happened with Josh Allen as a way that, yeah, he might be able to take that step. You can't compare quarterbacks that aren't very good to outliers. Josh Allen is one of the most ridiculous outliers the NFL has ever seen, really, at the position. So it's hard to to compare anybody in that situation to that. Yeah, Drew Lock's had inconsistency with the offensive coordinator position. They did not have last year, his offseason, to really get the playbook under him again. It's going to be a growing process, but they brought in Teddy Bridgewater, and they've been talking about possibly being able to trade for Aaron Rodgers for a reason. It's because they don't believe Drew Lock is the guy. Otherwise, you don't need to bring Teddy Bridgewater and you don't need to bring in Aaron Rodgers. Granted, Aaron Rodgers would be a great addition to any team, so I can understand that. My dog is now interrupting this video, so that's nice to see. But if we really look at the Drew Lock as a quarterback, I think that he has some interesting moments, and the flashes are there. But that's how he got drafted in the second round, where the flashes in college. Now you can't do that in the NFL and make it by. That's exactly why Teddy Bridgewater was brought in, because he's not going to be the most, be the flashiest quarterback in the NFL, but he delivers the ball accurately on time where it needs to be. Last year, he made multiple receivers in that offense work, even getting the ball downfield. So I believe that Teddy Bridgewater is going to be the guy in this offense to start. Now, let's take a look at what he can do, because multiple seasons now he had with the Saints, and then last year in Carolina. And then even the seasons he had in Minnesota before he got hurt, I thought he was a very good quarterback in terms of managing the game. Again, game managing type player. He's not going to be a guy that really does a ton with his physical skill set. I believe that after his injuries, the running ability that he had in Minnesota, even if it was a little limited, it's gone. He can do every once in a while, but I don't think he's going to be a guy that get out of the pocket on purpose and break that stride, look like a Drew Lock can do to some extent. But Teddy Bridgewater, he had 3,733 passing yards last year. It's not a great amount, but again, they ran the ball a lot. They wanted to run the ball a lot, and his completion percentage was nearly 70%. That's something you can work with in an offense, even if he's not going to give you the best yards per attempt, and they were just about 7.5. But Teddy Bridgewater, I believe, is going to be able to, like I mentioned, deliver the ball to his playmakers. You get weapons around him, he can make things happen. I think that they can score points, specifically with Courtland Sutton coming back and Jerry Jeudy in his second year. He had some issues with drops over the middle last year, but I think that if you can really get him the ball on time where it's supposed to be, that's the most important thing for Jeudy getting, growing in this offense and being a better receiver in his second year. That's what I really believe is going to happen. And he was very good in New Orleans in the 2 seasons there when he came in and was able to play extremely well, specifically in his second year when he had 5 starts and he threw for 1,300, nearly 1,400 yards at a 68% clip, 9 touchdowns to 2 interceptions in those 5 games. I mean, he played very well. That's not going to happen with this offense, because it's not the Sean Payton, it's not the Joe Brady of the Carolina Panthers. It's a different offense. It's a Gary Kubiak, I believe, still over there. But I think that what he's done in those 2 places can show you can still win with him if you have the defense. Carolina didn't have the defense last year. Denver has the defense to make Teddy Bridgewater an average winning quarterback in terms of 9. I could see 9 and 8 wins for him through that season. It's not going to compete with the Chiefs and possibly the Chargers, but when you're trying to get the quarterback situation figured out, and Drew Lock's not the guy, you can't bring in Aaron Rodgers. Your best quarterback option to win is Teddy Bridgewater for me. So that's where we're at with the competition. And now we're going to talk about Patrick Mahomes' stats a little bit, only because there is a trend that I noticed among his stats that, while it's a little worrisome, I don't think it's that big of a deal. And his yards per attempt since his breakout season 2018 has gone down quite a bit. It's almost at 8 now. So he's still trying to get the ball down the field. But I think we're seeing a regression in the weapons around Kansas City's quarterback, and just the fact that sometimes you have to take the checkdowns and you can't always get the ball down the field. In the first season is really an outlier as well, because he was throwing, he was on pace for like 67 touchdowns in his first month. That's not going to happen because teams are now more prepared for what the Chiefs do in terms of throwing the ball down the field. They weren't really ready for that in his first year. So I still think that Patrick Mahomes is going to break the single season passing yard record sooner rather than later. I don't know if it's going to be this year. It's going to be this year or next year, in my opinion. It's going to be one of the two. Whether defenses adjust to what he does this year with basically saying we're going to play coverage and force you to run the football, if that may take away from a little bit more attempts, specifically trying to make defenses correct themselves to that, bring more people in the box, what have you. So there's just no real stopping Patrick Mahomes. Drops and unlucky things like that we saw in the Super Bowl, even while he was under pressure, getting out of the pocket, making throws from a vertical plane, like he was still spectacular in that loss, only scoring 9 points. The things that he did, it cannot be really taken for granted and shouldn't be taken for granted. And that's exactly why the Chiefs brought in the offensive line that they did. And 38 touchdown passes last year, 26 the year before, but he missed some games there. I think we're going to see a return to the 40s for him this year with passing touchdowns, and 45, 46, 47. I think that's what we're going for. And when it comes down to this division, it's Patrick Mahomes to lose, and it always will be as long as he's he's with Kansas City. So that's really the rundown of the quarterbacks. I'm not going to talk about Aaron Rodgers because we don't really know. I personally believe that he is not even going to be playing in the NFL this next season. I think he's either going to be the Green Bay Packers quarterback or he's going to be essentially retired. So we'll wait and cross that bridge when we get here. So any of the topics you guys want to hear going forward, please in the comment section, let me know what you want to hear. I know that this was more AFC West centric, but I think it's important to talk about the competition that we're going to be seeing and that they're going to be seeing, and the arms race essentially that is going to be created by having Patrick Mahomes as the best quarterback in the division and the NFL. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed this. If there's anything else you want to hear, just let me know. Have a great day.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more and subscribe to RGR Football.